Greetings, my friends. The new Space Marine Codex comes out tomorrow, so if you haven't pre-ordered it or bought it yet, you should probably be doing that, because tomorrow you're going to be able to use this new Firestorm Assault Force. And I've got a bit of a breakdown of the Assault Force, the enhancements, the stratagems, and also I've picked out a bunch of units that are going to be a lot better than they potentially are in the current detachments. So let's talk about it all, and let's figure out if the Firestorm Assault Force is good for Blood Angels. I might even tell you at the end of the video if it's good for Ultramarines too. So let's get right into it, guys. Thanks for being here. Remember to smash the like button. Right, so the Firestorm Assault Force. It's kind of confusing. Some of them are called Assault Force, some of them are called Strike Force. Hopefully I got this one right. Their detachment rule is close range eradication. So you'd think eradicators would be good in this detachment. Spoiler, they are. Close range eradication says range weapons equipped by stepped as Astartes models from your army have the assault ability, and each time an attack is made with such a weapon, if it targets a unit within 12 inches, add 1 to the strength characteristic of the attack. So basically, if you're within 12 inches, you're getting +1 to your strength on your range weaponry. Also, your whole army has assault, so everything can advance and shoot all your ranged weapons. This means all your tanks can get straight up the board, advancing, shooting. There's no penalty to that. In some ways, similar to the detachment, or similar to being able to go into the tactical doctrine in the Gladiator detachment, but this is just army-wide for the whole game. And +1 strength is really going to be good, in my opinion, because it affects like a bunch of breakpoints. We've talked about this more with Power Fists and stuff on the Blood Angels detachment. +1 strength on like a Strength 8 Power Fist doesn't do that much. I think Strength 8 to Strength 9, maybe you're killing some rhinos, there's a small damage buff there, but most of the time it's kind of insignificant. However, +1 strength in shooting when you've got all your Meltifier going from strength 9 to 10. Space Marines actually already have a tank that is a strength 10 multi-melta, and that is the Gladiator, not the Lancer, not the Redeemer, the third one. I forget the name, but the third Gladiator, the Valiant. So it would actually go from strength 10 to strength 11. Now both 9 to 10 and 10 to 11 are both arguably breakpoints, because if you go from 9 to 10, you suddenly wound toughness 10 on 4s rather than 5s. And if you go from 10 to 11, you suddenly win those toughness 10 on 3s rather than 4s. Now, there's a lot of toughness 10 armor in the game. There is some toughness 11, there is some toughness 12, but I feel like in most people's lists, there's enough stuff around toughness 9, 10, and 11 that this +1 is going to be actually pretty impactful. So Melta goes from strength 9 to 10. This potentially improves all your reserved Melta units when they shoot armor. Eradicators can now realistically do a lot of damage to armor with their full rerolls to wound. Suddenly wounding on a 4 changes their full rerolls to a 75% chance to wound armor rather than a 55%. So it's a 20% increase in the potential wound rolls for eradicators, assuming you're smart and you target something that is basically toughness 10. This would also help, let's say, if you're fighting against Terminators, because now eradicators, rather than wounding on Terminators on 3s, because they're toughness 5, would now wound them on 2s. So there's multiple units that, or there's multiple points here where this Meltifier gets really, really good. Anti-vehicle fire also gets much better. If you think about las cannons, or maybe the strength 10 rockets from something like Ballistus Dreadnought, well, las cannons become strength 13. Again, if the enemy do have those toughness 12 units, then suddenly that's hit a breakpoint as well. The strength 10 going up to 11, right? I already mentioned that toughness 10 and 11 are common. So again, the rockets, so everything is going to hit these breakpoints if you move within 12 inches. Now, it's not going to always be easy to get in 12 inches in the first turn, but your whole army does have assault. So you're going to be basically as fast and as shooty as you possibly can be. And then there's also a bunch of quirky things in this list, in that even things like hand flamers could actually be good. And yet everybody's going to be advancing and shooting every turn. The only disadvantage is, remember, if you advance, you're not going to be charging. They don't have a stratagem that lets you do that. But we're going to cover everything. And by the end of it, I'm going to go over a bunch of units that I think that could get a lot of play in this detachment. And Blood Angels could use to be very effective. So, enhancements. The first one, 25 points, War Tempered Artifice. Adept as Astartes infantry models only. You add 3 to the strength of the bearer's melee weapon. Probably going to get most value on this one, the Power Fist. Move up to strength 11. Power Fist again moves across breakpoints. Very, very good. And the Adamantium Mantle, an Adeptus Starters model only. Each time attack is allocated to the bearer, you subtract 1 damage from the characteristic of this attack. If the attack was made with Melta or Torrent weapons, change the damage characteristic of that attack to 1 instead. So any sort of like flamers or Meltas only can ever do 1 damage to the character. You're also going to be able to subtract 1 damage from all incoming attacks. I wasn't sure how this is going to interact with the Gravis Captain. Someone tell me in the comments below, because the Gravis Captain is going to half all incoming damage. So you're going to be able to half incoming damage and then -1, or -1 then half. I actually don't know how that's going to work, potentially. I guess it's a rule interaction they probably forgot even existed, because the Gravis Captain, I think, might be the only Marine unit that has half damage. It used to be on Marnay's Calgar, I don't believe it is anymore. Forge in Battle for 15 points. I was going to say, before we move on, Adamantium Mantle seems like a lower value one. I can't really imagine many situations you get value out of it, except maybe that Gravis Captain. But okay, Forge in Battle. Adeptus Starters model only. While this bearer is leading a unit, once per turn after making a hit or a saving throw for that model in that unit, you can change the result to 6. It's once per turn, not battle round. So you do this on both your turn and your opponent's turn, right? So in the opponent's turn, you arguably just instantly have a 6 on the saving throw. Pretty cool. And in your turn, you have a 6 on a hit roll. Again, pretty cool. I'm trying to think what hit roll you could use that on that would be the most value. And potentially for me, I was thinking Overwatch, right? Because normally you only hit on 6 with Overwatch. Normally Overwatch is super unreliable. I guess if you had a model that could get a lot of value, but it's a single shot, so it would have to be like a single guy with a las cannon or something that could auto Overwatch. I think it's cool. I think the saving throw, the auto save every turn basically, is actually, well, 6 isn't an auto save, but usually a 6 will make a save, right? I think this is very decent for 15 points. And then Champion of Humanity. Tacticus models only. While the bearer is leading unit, models in that unit can ignore any or all modifiers to their characteristics and or models in that unit can ignore any or all modifiers to their characteristics and or any rolls or tests made for them. I guess that means Battle Shock, right? So Battle Shock, I was looking at this, right? And I was trying to think what unit would benefit a lot, and it's a Tacticus unit. I actually wasn't even sure what Tacticus is, so I looked it up, and it's basically like Hellblasters, for example, are a Tacticus unit, or basically models that are wearing Primaris armor. It seems to be your Tacticus. So I wasn't sure where the value of this one comes. I mean, it could come up against something edge play, like you're playing against Death Guard, they're making all you all -1 to hit. So you've got Champion of Humanity on your squad of Hellblasters and you don't have to worry about it. But it's only 10 points, so I think it's quite situational. Again, leave me a comment if there's a situation that I didn't see that would be really good with Champion of Humanity. I honestly can't see it. I think the one that I probably like the most is Forge in Battle, and I'm thinking probably I like it most just for raw survivability of a squad. Inevitably, at some point your squads are going to get targeted by heavy weaponry or something in 10th edition, so I can just auto pass a 6 when they finally get through to my wound roll. I think that would be very good. The hit of a 6 I feel like is less impactful, but still useful. Right, stratagems, and they have 6 stratagems, same as everyone else, but 5 of them are battle tactic stratagems. So if you're attaching characters like a captain to a squad of aggressors or a captain to something else, and they give you that captain ability, I think it's called Rites of Battle, where you use a free stratagem. They recently FAQ'd that, so it's only battle tactics, but 5 of their 6 are battle tactics. So captains attached to units in this detachment is going to be really, really good. Right. Crucible of Battle for 1 CP. You choose it in your shooting phase or your fight phase. One Adeptus start unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight until the end of the phase. Each time a model unit makes an attack that targets the closest eligible enemy within 6 inches, add 1 to the wound roll. So it says each time a model makes an attack. So basically, if your whole unit, or basically every model would have to be in 6 if you wanted to affect the whole unit. But this is where I was thinking it could get quirky, right? Like, this could be where your Infernus Marines might actually be good. Because up until now I've thought Infernus Marines were trash. Well, this would mean your Infernus Marines potentially are strength 6. And if they're within 6, it's +1 to wound. Again, this is where Hand Flamers could actually be good for Blood Angels, because Hand Flamers are strength 3. If you're within 12 inches, you get +1, so you're strength 4. You get +1 to wound. So you'd actually get, like, if you had 10 Death Company with 10 Hand Flamers, you get 10d6, strength 4 +1 to wound. I mean, that'd be pretty good at killing infantry, right? Pretty good at killing probably up to, or at least death by a lot of chip damage, I guess, against infantry, right? Aggressors with flamers also seem like a very decent model unit for this. Even aggressors with the bolt guns would be very decent with this. If you weren't going to be running aggressors with like bolter discipline and you wanted to do this instead, then against those bolters would be strength 5 and they'd have +1 to wound. Again, very, even up to toughness 9, then you'd be wounding on 4s, and aggressors get a lot of bolter fire, especially if you give them something like lethal hits to, add even more damage on top of that. Okay. Burning Vengeance, again, 1 CP battle tactic. When your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy has resolved its attacks, 1 Adeptus Astartes transport from your army that was selected as the target of one or more of those attacking units. So 1 unit embarked with your transport can disembark as if it were your movement phase, and then they can shoot as if it were your shooting phase. But it must target the enemy unit that when doing so, and it can only do so if that enemy unit is an eligible target. So if you have a transport in the middle of the board on low health and enemies shoot at it, you can pay 1 CP, or if you've got your captain attached, you can pay no CP, you can jump out and you can shoot back. This is after the enemy unit has resolved its attacks. So if your transport is destroyed, you can't do this. But I guess if your transport survives, then you can jump out and you can shoot back, assuming you can get models in range to make them an eligible target. Again, that's pretty cool, right? Like, they're trying to kill your unit center board. There's no stipulation here on, like, where you can disembark or anything like that. So you could disembark onto an objective after the opponent's done shooting, and if they have something that was maybe going to charge your transport, then you're just going to shoot them back and hopefully kill them. Bear in mind, you would still get probably your +1 strength if they're within 12 inches. So this is good as well. Burning Vengeance, not a bad stratagem actually. Obviously, it's going to benefit from. You need to have transports to make this work, but I think enough Space Marine players are running Land Raiders and Repulsors to make it work. I've been running a Repulsor now for like 9 or 10 weeks in a row. I really like playing it. Next up is Immolation Protocol, and it's a battle tactic of 2 CP, so it's an expensive one, unless you get it free with Captain again. So you use it in your shooting phase. 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot until end of the phase. Torrent weapons equipped by models in this unit have devastating wounds. So this is where I was starting to think, well, this could get interesting in that, like, if you had a unit in Furnace Marines or something in a transport attached with a captain, you could jump out, you could flame a bunch of stuff, and then in the opponent's turn, now you can have devastating wounds. And arguably, with the number of shots, like a 10-man squad with flamers, you're probably going to end up with like 6 or 7 devastating wounds. I've got some maths on that later. I was trying to work out if I felt 6 or 7 devastating wounds was worth 2 CP, because it's equivalent almost like to mortal wounds, right? If you go back like 1 edition or whatnot. And would you pay 2 CP for 6 or 7 mortal wounds in the previous edition? I think you probably would. If you can do it for no CP because of the captain, then I feel like you definitely would. Up next, we've got Onslaught of Battle, another battle tactic. I guess enjoy the battle tactics. 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that is disembarked from a transport this turn that has not been selected to shoot. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in the unit makes a ranged attack that targets the closest eligible unit within 12 inches, add 1 to the hit roll. If 1 or more enemies were destroyed as a result of those attacks, select one of the destroyed models. That destroyed model's unit must take a battle shock. So for me, this sort of makes me think Eradicators inside a transport. You disembark the transport, you shoot the 6 Eradicators into the opponent. If you have a captain attached, you get +1 to hit for nothing, so you hit on 2s, Eradicators get baked in rerolls. If you're in 12 inches, again, you get that +1 strength. There's other way you could attach things together here, right? You could attach some of these other ones, like get +1 to wound on those Eradicators if you really needed it. for 1 CP, because you're doing this one for free with the captain, this seems like a very strong detachment. And then once you destroy one model, which assuming 6 Eradicators do most of the time, the opponent needs to take a battle shot test. Onslaught of Fire. Again, another good stratagem here. Alright, let's move on to the final page. We've also got Armor of Contempt. I'm not going to read over Armor of Contempt. You get to ignore 1 AP. It's a battle tactic. Again, all the Space Marine detachments have it. And Rapid Embarkation is the one that is not the battle tactic. It's a strategic ploy. When, at the end of the fight phase, 1 Adeptus Astartes transport unit from your army that has no models embarked with it, and 1 Adeptus Astartes unit from your army that's wholly within 6, your infantry unit can embark within that transport. You cannot target an infantry unit that was within engagement range of one or more enemy units that normally embark within the transport or disembark from the transport this turn. So basically what it means is, and there's various ways you could get quite a bit of value out of this, it says that the unit needs to be wholly within 6 of transport. But that's essentially almost giving them like a free 6-inch move. So if you are smart with your transports, position them well almost as screens, you can have your units out of the transports, you can shoot at them at the end of the fight phase, so basically the end of your opponent's turn, you get a 6-inch move into the transport, so then in your turn you could get a 3-inch move, disembark move, and then their normal 6-inch move, or 5-inch move it's for Eradicators or something. But like, one of the things they try to do this edition is they try to change a lot of the ways that you can use melee combat to get additional movement, right? Like, because you used to be able to like always consolidate and always pile in, and you never needed, there was restrictions around this. This one for 1 CP actually seems kind of crazy, because if you imagine Eradicators normally move 5 inches. Yes, you have assault weapons, so I guess you could assault, and arguably you roll an average dice roll of a 3 or something. So your Eradicators or your aggressors or something in this detachment are moving around 8 inches. Well, with this one, at the end of your opponent's turn, if your guys are in bad position but they're near a transport, they can get a 6-inch free move into the transport, then they can get 3-inch disembark, then they get 5-inch move, then they get the average 3. So rather than moving 8, they just got 9 inches of additional movement. Now, it's going to be very hard to position the transports to optimize the maximum amount of movement out of here, but you're going to, maximize, you could get 9 inches of movement. Realistically, you probably get 5 or 6 inches of additional movement. I feel like this could be really useful if you're using something like Eradicators, you need to get within Melter range, right? Because once you're in Melter range, you get the 2 extra damage from the Melt of 2. It's very important. So all the stratagems here combined together, and I think this video is just touching the surface of this. There's loads of combinations that I'm probably not even seeing. Leave me the combinations you say down below, but this is a very good all-round Space Marine detachment. I think this is supposed to be a bit like the Imperial Fists, or even maybe it's been more supposed to be like a Salamander's detachment. But this seems like a very strong detachment. This could definitely work with numerous Space Marine armies. I think the breakpoints are really good. We arguably know that shooting is better than melee in 10th edition, and this is just all-around shooting, all-around pluses to hit, shenanigans with transports, pluses to wound, extra strength. Just seems all good, right? I'd be surprised if this wasn't one of the best performing ones. I've been sort of thinking that I'm going to still use Gladius come the Space Marine Codex release, which is tomorrow. But this detachment seemed... If I had more time to practice with this detachment, I might take it to GT at some point. Okay. What's the deadliest units in the Firestorm detachment? Well, I think the Librarian Dreadnought is going to be very, very useful when you yeet those infantry around the board, right? Because the second you yeet a unit and they're 9 inches away from the enemy, then they're getting +1 strength. Then they're getting the bonus and hitting that breakpoint. So you could use Eradicators, getting strength 10, arriving from teleport from the Librarian Dreadnought or Deep Strike. Death Company with Hand Flamers could get quirky, right? You could get strength 4 Flamers with +1 to wound, for 1 CP, or you could statistically get 6 devastating wounds for 2 CP if all 10 guys are within that 6 inches, I think it was, for the devastation wound. Oh, it was 6 inches for the +1 to wound, sorry, and then 2 CP for the devastating wounds. Alright, aggressors. The bolters and flamers both become strength 5, and they both can get +1 to wound. Ball predators / land raider redeemers. Those 2 damage, strength 7, -2 flamers suddenly become, well, the flamers were strength 6, so they move up to strength 7, and again, they can get +1 to wound. I think a couple of captains letting you use +1 to wound and then +1 to wound on other units here is going to be huge. Inceptors, strength 6 bolters would arguably make them very good against elite infantry, or strength 9 plasma. The Redemptor Dreadnought would get a strength 10 macro plasma. The Redemptor Dreadnought has a bunch of other firepower on there as well, all getting +1 strength, I guess, with you within 12 inches. So it's almost like a very close combat focused, or a close range firepower focused detachment. I guess that's how you look at it. And the Brutalis Dreadnought, it has the strength 10 multi-meltas once you get within 12. You're going to want to be within 12 with Brutalis because obviously it's a melee dreadnought. I missed the Gladiator Valiant. I should have mentioned that here, but it does have those strength 10 multi-meltas as it stands. So the Gladiator Valiants have strength 11 multi-meltas in this detachment. All of this depends on you with being within 12 inches, but your whole army's advancing all the time. Every turn, you're just advancing. So you're on top of your opponent, you're flaming them, you're melting them, you're deathing them by 1,000 cuts. You've got ways to get plus to hit, plus to wound, transport shenanigans. I like it. The biggest winners here will be durable units that can get in your face. However, there seems decidedly one thing missing from this detachment, and that is the fall back and shoot stratagem or ability. Now, when I started looking into fall back and shoot, obviously lieutenants can give you the ability, and there's a few different lieutenants can give it, but it seems like the only other character, or the named character, that could give this is Marneus Calgar. He lets you fall back and shoot. So this could actually be a pretty interesting detachment for Ultramarine players out there that are bored, potentially, of Gladius. I'm not bored of Gladius. I love the Gladius detachment. I think the flexibility it gives you turn on turn, being able to put any unit into any doctrine and call your doctrines, is super powerful. I think doctrines are better than they ever were back in 9th edition. But yes, I think this is a decent detachment. Tell me down below if there's some units that you think would really stand out in this detachment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I think at some point we're going to have to do some army list reviews for this sort of detachment, because it looks very strong and it's interesting and it's exciting. And maybe, I was going to say, if we compare this detachment as compared to like the vanilla detachment that we got in Index, like the Blood Angels detachment we got in Index, this detachment seems so much better. Like, not just better as in stronger, but just better as in well thought out. Like, every stratagem complements other stratagems. You know, like the Blood Angels attachment was missing some key stratagems. For example, like there's no way in the Blood Angels attachment to improve your AP. And as a melee focused force where you need to be in really killing the target you're going to kill, otherwise you're left all exposed and you just die, I really felt like you needed a way to get bonus to your AP, but we never got it. So this detachment gives me hope for the future of Space Marines, and also I think it's quite exciting. I think it really is quite strong. If you liked this week's video, you know what to do. You can smash the like button, you subscribe to the channel, or if you really want to get on board, you can click the big join button underneath this video, or you can support us on Patreon for little as $3 or $4 a month, and I do really appreciate it. It helps me with all the different videos that I can make and all the content I can share. You can bet your ass that there's more to come from the Blood Angels Commander channel. Guys, thank you so much for watching to the end. I really do appreciate it. I'll catch you in next week's video. Peace.